She only wanted to help, but she destroyed everything. Leah never imagined that opening her home to someone in need would be the beginning of the end. Not just of peace, not just of joy, but of her marriage. It started with a favor. Madeline, Brandon's mother, had slipped on ice outside her apartment during a brutal Michigan winter. She broke her hip. She couldn't live alone. She needed care. And without hesitation, Brandon asked the obvious. "She can stay with us, just until she's better." Leah agreed. Of course she did. What kind of wife says no to her husband's aging mother? But some favors come with a hidden cost. At first, it was small things. Madeline rearranged the kitchen without asking, said it made more sense her way. Leah bit her tongue. It wasn't worth a fight. But then came the whispers. "Brandon, did you notice Leah doesn't clean the way I used to? Darling, you work so hard. She should have dinner ready when you come home. She's not very affectionate with you anymore, is she?" And Brandon listened. He didn't confront Leah. Not at first. But the silence was louder than any words. Dinners became quiet. Touches became rare. Laughter disappeared. Leah began to wonder. Was she imagining it? She tried harder. Cooked more. Cleaned obsessively. Smiled when she wanted to scream. But Madeline was always watching, always correcting, always planting seeds of doubt. And slowly, painfully, those seeds began to grow. One night, Leah overheard them, in the hallway. Just a few words, but they cut like glass. "She's not the right woman for you. I can feel it in my bones." Brandon didn't argue. He didn't defend. He just said, "I don't know anymore." Leah's heart cracked that night. Not broken, not yet, but cracked deep enough to let sorrow seep in. She confronted him, asked what was happening, if something had changed. And he shrugged. "She's just here temporarily. You're overreacting." But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And Madeline? She didn't leave. Instead, she took more space, more control, more of Brandon. And Leah lost herself. Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Have you ever screamed silently inside your chest, knowing no one will hear you? Leah did, every single day. She started sleeping in the guest room, said it was because of Madeline snoring in the next room. But deep down, she knew the truth. She was already alone. Then came the lie, a simple, poisonous sentence whispered by Madeline when Brandon walked in late one evening. "She had a man here today. I saw him." Leah didn't even get the chance to explain. Brandon exploded. "You brought someone into our house? While my mother's here?" It didn't matter that it was the plumber. It didn't matter that Leah had the invoice in her hand. The damage was done. Trust, already thin as ice in spring, shattered completely. That night, Leah stood in the backyard, coatless under the gray Detroit sky, feeling the cold pierce her bones. She didn't cry. She had no tears left. She just stood there, still, numb, and thought, how did we get here? Madeline never yelled. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Her weapon was subtlety, a look, a sigh, a carefully timed comment. Leah noticed it more and more. At first, she blamed the tension on the situation. An injured elderly woman, a cramped house, a stressed husband. But no. It was intentional. Madeline knew exactly what she was doing. She played the victim perfectly, always frail, always trying to help. Always twisting reality, just enough to make Leah seem like the problem. "She's moody again, Brandon. I think she's overwhelmed, maybe depressed." And Brandon would sigh, not looking up from his phone. "She needs help. I've done what I can," Leah said quietly one night, after another passive-aggressive remark from Madeline ruined dinner. Brandon shrugged. She's recovering. This is temporary. You're being dramatic. That word. Dramatic. Leah started hearing it all the time. It was the word used when her voice rose, when she asked for respect, when she asked to be heard. The home began to feel like a trap. Detroit's long winter dragged on outside. The snowbanks piled higher, the gray skies endless. Inside, warmth was supposed to live. But instead, cold settled into the walls, into the marriage. Brandon changed. Not in a loud, obvious way. No yelling, no violence, just detachment, distance. He stopped touching her, stopped asking about her day, stopped calling her babe or honey like he used to. And Madeline filled the space. She would bring him tea, sit beside him on the couch, talk endlessly about his childhood, their family, their past. And Leah? She hovered, on the edges, always on the outside of her own life. She started spending more time out of the house. Grocery store trips took longer. She lingered at the library, took long drives without direction, just to feel the car, move beneath her, to feel like something in her world was still in motion. But every time she came home, there was Madeline and Brandon. Closer, closer than before. Once, Leah came home and heard laughter. Real, deep laughter from the living room. Laughter she hadn't heard in months. When she stepped in, it stopped. Madeline smiled. Brandon didn't. That silence said more than any words. Leah started, keeping a journal. She wrote late at night, in the guest room, under dim light. Her handwriting shaky, tired, but her words sharp. She's turning him against me. Every day I lose him more. I can't compete with the past. She reread those pages the next morning, doubting herself, questioning her mind. Was it really that bad? Then came the bank statements, shared accounts. Brandon had started moving money, small amounts, to a new account in his name only. She asked about it. He said it was just to manage bills more easily. But she felt the earth shift under her feet. One morning, Leah woke up to find Madeline in her bedroom, sitting calmly in the chair by the window, hands folded, watching. Leah blinked. "Do you need something?" Madeline smiled faintly. "You'll never really understand him. You know that, don't you?" That was it. Just that. Then she stood and walked out. Leah stood frozen, her breath stuck in her throat. That night, she told Brandon, she came into our bedroom while I was asleep. That's not normal, Brandon. He didn't even flinch. She's old, Leah. She probably got confused. No, she wasn't confused. She was waiting. Brandon got up. This is what I mean. You're always trying to start something. And then, he walked away. It hit her like a punch in the chest. She wasn't just losing Brandon. She had already lost him. She just hadn't realized it yet. The walls were closing in. Even outside the house, Leah felt the shadow of it all. The weight on her shoulders didn't lift when she drove. It didn't lift when she sat alone at a cafe with her untouched coffee. She felt watched, judged, like she was always doing something wrong, even when she was alone. Friends started pulling away, not because Leah changed, but because she stopped reaching out. What was there to say? My mother-in-law is destroying my life and my husband won't see it. No one wanted to hear that. And besides, what if they didn't believe her? There was one person she still confided in, her older sister, Maya. Maya had always been the one who saw through things. They spoke on the phone late one night. You need to get out of there, Leah, Maya said firmly. This is emotional abuse. Leah stayed quiet. The word felt too big, too heavy. but also too true. I made vows, Leah whispered. I can't just walk away. Maya didn't hesitate. You didn't vow to disappear. Leah looked around the guest room. It wasn't just a guest room anymore. It was her room now, her safe zone, her prison. Days blurred together. The silence grew louder. Brandon no longer kissed her goodnight. Sometimes he didn't even say goodnight. And Madeline? She flourished. She cooked his favorite meals, told him stories from childhood, always stories that painted Leah as the outsider, the one who didn't belong. One night, Leah overheard her whisper, "You used to laugh so much more before her." Those words, they broke something that had been holding Leah together. And Brandon? He just nodded. She was still in the house. But she was no longer in the marriage. It was a Tuesday, ordinary in every way, but that's how endings often begin, isn't it? With quiet. Leah was cleaning the kitchen when she found the envelope. It had Brandon's handwriting, tucked beneath a stack of receipts in the drawer. She almost didn't notice it, but something made her pause. She opened it. Inside, divorce papers, unsigned, but filled out. All of it. Dates, terms, her name, his name. She dropped to the floor, not dramatically, just slowly, as if her body could no longer carry the weight. Her hand trembled as she held the pages. He had made the decision, before saying a word, before giving her a chance. That night, she didn't confront him. She just watched him laugh with his mother over dinner, watched him ignore her, watched him avoid her eyes like she was a stranger renting a room. Then, she made a choice. She packed a single bag. She left the papers on the bed. She didn't leave a note, only silence. When Brandon found the bag missing, the papers untouched, he called her name once, then sat down and said nothing. Sometimes, silence is the loudest goodbye. Leah didn't cry when she left. The tears had dried up weeks ago. In their place, something colder had settled. A numbness. A kind of quiet that didn't scream. Didn't plead. It just accepted. She drove through Detroit without looking back. The snow had started again. Tiny flakes, soft as whispers, brushed against the windshield. They reminded her of the early days, before everything changed. Before Madeline. Before Brandon stopped seeing her. She checked into a motel. One of those roadside places with buzzing neon lights and cheap coffee. The bed was stiff. The air smelled like old carpet. But she slept. For the first time in months, she slept. The next morning, she turned off her phone. She needed silence. Not the kind that haunted her in that house, but a different kind. A silence that allowed her to breathe. Meanwhile, Brandon read the silence as abandonment. He called twice, then stopped calling. Madeline watched him from across the room as he sat on the edge of their bed, the bed he once shared with Leah. She left you, Madeline said gently, placing her hand on his shoulder. Some women just aren't meant to stay. Brandon didn't answer, but deep down, something in him twisted, because he knew. He didn't fight for her, and now she was gone. In the days that followed, Leah moved into a small apartment, 1 bedroom. No decoration, no photos, just space. Space to be no one's wife, no one's daughter-in-law, no one's problem. She applied for a new job, changed her number, told no one where she was. And slowly people stopped asking. Even Maya. Grief has a way of hardening. People assume you'll get over it. They mean well. But Leah didn't get over it. She learned to live inside it. She began to walk at night. Just her, the streetlights, and the wind. And always, the silence. She had escaped the house. But not the emptiness. 2 years passed. 2 birthdays, 2 winters, 2 sets of holidays spent alone. Leah stopped checking social media, stopped wondering about Brandon, but the pain didn't really stop. It just got quieter. Like a wound that scabs over, but still aches when the rain comes. She never dated again. She tried. Once. A kind man at the bookstore. Soft voice. Honest smile. But when he reached for her hand, she pulled away like it burned. She wasn't ready. And deep down, she knew. Maybe she never would be. Her heart wasn't broken. It had been erased. Back in the city, Brandon had moved too. A smaller house, just outside the metro area, somewhere quiet, private. Madeline's health had started to decline again. This time, for real. Brandon became her full-time caregiver. He never remarried, never dated. He filled his days with her appointments, her meals, her medications. He never spoke of Leah. But sometimes late at night, he looked at the old photo on his shelf, the one from their trip to Traverse City, where Leah was laughing in the sun, her hair tangled by the wind. And he'd close his eyes. Not with regret, but with the terrible knowledge that he let her go, and never once asked her to stay. Madeline died a few years later, quietly, in her sleep. Brandon buried her alone. No siblings, no wife, no family. Just him, and silence. They were both still alive. But the love had died long ago. Years passed. Detroit changed. People moved on. New buildings rose where old ones fell. But some things stayed the same, like the way winter always came early, and the way silence filled certain empty rooms. Leah lived a quiet life. She never remarried. She never moved far. She kept to herself, working at a local library, helping strangers find stories that might make them feel something again. She smiled politely, said good morning. But no one really knew her, and no one ever saw her cry. Sometimes at night she'd sit by her window with a cup of tea, staring into the dark, thinking of a life she almost had, a life that could have been soft, warm, real. But some stories don't get second chances. Brandon remained alone as, well, he kept the house clean, tended to the garden, went to the store every Friday morning at the same time. Neighbors called him quiet. No one knew where he worked. No one asked. Inside his drawer, beneath old documents and keys, was a small framed photo of Leah. He never showed it to anyone. He never spoke her name out loud. But every year, on what would have been their anniversary, he placed the photo on his kitchen table, made a cup of coffee, and sat across from it in silence. 2 lives, 2 separate paths, forever shaped by one woman's presence and absence. Some stories don't end in flames or fury. Some just fade, leaving only the echo of what love almost was. And if this story moved you or even made you think, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone. And this story is a work of fiction. All characters, names, and situations are entirely made up and are not based on real individuals. Any resemblance to actual persons living or dead is purely coincidental.